said I was playing? 5 words that changed everything. Aaliyah thought she'd hired a stranger to pretend to be her boyfriend for one night. Payback for the ex who humiliated her. But when Seoul's most dangerous mafia boss wrapped his arm around her waist and kissed her temple in front of everyone, she realized her mistake. This man didn't do pretend. And the black Mercedes that followed her home, the guards watching her apartment, the way he answered her call before the first ring finished, it all confirmed what she feared. Lim Sung-go had decided she was his. And what he claimed he kept. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to K-Pop Tales Studios for heart-stopping romance stories that'll leave you breathless.
Aaliyah's hands trembled as she stood in the hotel lobby, staring at the ornate double doors ahead. The banner hanging above them made her stomach drop. Jordan and Michelle. A love to last forever. She'd come to meet a client. That's what the email had said. The Imperial Hotel, 7th floor, private event space. But the moment she stepped off the elevator and saw the champagne towers and white roses, she knew. This wasn't a business meeting. This was his engagement party. Jordan's engagement party. The same Jordan who'd promised her forever 6 months ago. The same Jordan she'd caught in bed with his just a colleague 3 weeks before she was supposed to move to Seoul permanently. She should have turned around. Should have walked straight back into that elevator and pretended she'd never seen any of it. But her feet wouldn't move. And then someone noticed her. "Is that Aaliyah?" A voice whispered loud enough to carry. Heads turned. The whispers multiplied like ripples in water. Then Jordan himself appeared, Michelle's hand tucked into his arm, his smile sharp and satisfied. "Aaliyah." He said her name like a joke. "What are you doing here?" Her throat closed. Everyone was staring. The room felt smaller, hotter, suffocating. She couldn't finish. Couldn't explain that she'd been set up, that someone had sent her a fake meeting invitation just to humiliate her. Jordan's smile widened. "Still chasing your career instead of real connections?" He glanced at Michelle, then back at Aaliyah. "Some people just aren't meant for love, I guess. Too focused on work to make room for anyone real." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Quiet, cruel laughter that made her skin burn. If you hate people like Jordan who humiliate others just to feel powerful, hit subscribe to K-Pop Tales Studios. Only manipulators and heartbreakers won't. Aaliyah's vision blurred. She was about to run when a voice cut through the noise like a blade. "She's not alone." The room went silent. Aaliyah turned and her breath caught. The man standing behind her looked like he'd stepped out of a photograph. Tall, sharp-featured, dressed in a black suit that fit him like it had been made specifically for his body. His dark hair was styled back, and his eyes held something dangerous. Confident, absolute. A small tattoo curled behind his ear, barely visible but unmistakable. He moved toward her with the kind of authority that didn't ask permission. His hand slipped around her waist, warm and certain, and he pulled her close. "You kept me waiting," he said, his tone smooth but carrying enough weight to silence every whisper. Aaliyah's heart stumbled. She didn't know this man, had never seen him before in her life, but something in his eyes told her to play along. "Sorry," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Traffic." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. It was the kind of smile that warned people not to test him. Jordan's face went pale. He looked at the stranger, then at Aaliyah, then back at the stranger. "And you are?" "Sung-go." He didn't offer a last name, didn't explain, just stood there, radiating power and danger in equal measure. The crowd shifted. People stepped back. Even Michelle tugged at Jordan's sleeve, whispering something urgent. Jordan forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow. "Right. Well, enjoy the party." Sung-go's grip on Aaliyah's waist tightened slightly. "We won't be staying." He turned, guiding her toward the exit with a kind of command that made people move out of their way instinctively. The moment they stepped into the hallway, Aaliyah pulled away, her heart pounding. "Who are you?" she demanded. He looked at her for a moment, his expression unreadable. "Someone who doesn't like seeing people humiliated." "You didn't have to do that." "You're right." He adjusted his cuff, the motion precise and controlled. "But you looked like you needed saving." Aaliyah studied him. The expensive watch, The perfect suit. The way hotel staff had bowed, slightly as they passed. This wasn't just some good Samaritan. Why, she asked. Let me buy you a drink, he said instead of answering. Call it damage control. She should have said no. Should have thanked him and walked away. But something in his voice, quiet, certain, oddly safe despite the danger he radiated, made her nod. The bar was intimate, dimly lit and clearly exclusive. The staff recognized Sungo immediately, greeting him with respect that bordered on fear. Over whiskey, Aaliyah found herself talking. About Jordan. About the betrayal. About moving to Seoul for a fresh start only to have her past follow her. Sungo listened. Really listened. He didn't offer empty comfort or meaningless platitudes. He just absorbed every word like it mattered. If you want to make him regret it, he said finally, leaning forward slightly, I can play your boyfriend for one night. Make it convincing. Aaliyah blinked, caught off guard. You'd really do that? His expression didn't change. I don't make offers I don't mean. She laughed nervously, but something in his eyes told her he was serious. When he stood to leave, he handed her a matte black card. No name, just a number embossed in silver. If anyone bothers you again, he said, call me. Who exactly are you? She asked. He smiled, slow, confident, knowing. The one man in Seoul your ex shouldn't have crossed. Then he was gone, leaving Aaliyah alone with a business card that felt heavier than it should and questions she couldn't answer. Subscribe to K-Pop Tale Studios and comment what time you're watching this if you can't stand people who use humiliation as a weapon. Let's stand together against toxic exes like Jordan. 3 days passed before Aaliyah touched the black card again. She'd tucked it into her wallet, told herself she'd never use it, that whatever happened at the hotel was a one-time thing. But when the invitation to the Seoul Marketing Excellence Gala arrived, and she saw Jordan's company listed as a sponsor, her fingers found that card like it had been calling to her. The gala was already in full swing when she arrived. Crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, the city's business elite mingling with champagne glasses. Aaliyah had almost convinced herself Jordan wouldn't show when she saw him across the room. He spotted her at the same moment. His expression shifted, surprise, then something uglier. He started walking toward her, Michelle trailing behind. Aaliyah's pulse spiked. She pulled out her phone, staring at that single number embossed on the card she'd photographed. Her thumb hovered over the call button. This is insane. He's a stranger. Jordan was 20 feet away now. 15. She pressed call. Sungo answered on the first ring. Aaliyah. The way he said her name made her breath catch, like he'd been expecting this, waiting for it. Her voice wavered. I need that favor. The boyfriend thing. Are you busy? Where are you? The Shilla Hotel. The marketing gala on the 5th floor. But if you can't... 30 minutes. The line went dead. Jordan reached her before she could process what she'd just done. Aaliyah, funny seeing you here. His smile was sharp. Alone again. Actually, she started, but Michelle cut her off. Jordan, let's not make a scene. I'm not making a scene. I'm just checking on an old friend. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. You know it's sad, watching you show up to these things by yourself, still pretending you don't need anyone. Aaliyah's jaw tightened, but before she could respond, a hand settled on her lower back. Firm, possessive, unmistakable. Sorry, I'm late, sweetheart. Sungo's voice was velvet and steel. He pressed a kiss to her temple that felt far too natural. Traffic. Jordan's face went white. Sungo looked impeccable in a black suit that probably cost more than Jordan's car. But it wasn't the clothes that commanded attention. It was the way he carried himself, like the entire room existed at his discretion. You remember Sungo, Aaliyah said, finding her voice. From the engagement party. Jordan's mouth opened and closed. Michelle's grip on his arm tightened. We should go, Michelle whispered urgently. But Jordan's pride wouldn't let him retreat twice. Right, the mysterious boyfriend. Funny how he only shows up when it's convenient. Sungo's expression didn't change, but something in the air shifted. Colder, darker. Funny how you only find your courage when your fiancé is holding your leash, he said quietly. The words were soft, but they cut like razors. Jordan's face flushed red. Michelle pulled at him harder, and this time he let her drag him away. If you're Team Sungo and can't stand entitled exes like Jordan, drop a like right now. Let's show toxic people they don't win. Aaliyah exhaled, her heart racing. Thank you. Again. I don't know how you got here so fast. Dance with me, Sungo interrupted, already guiding her toward the floor. The music was slow, intimate. His hand splayed across her lower back, pulling her close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and dangerously appealing. They moved together like they'd done this 100 times before. His hand was warm through the thin fabric of her dress. When she looked up, his eyes were already on her, dark and intense. You're good at this, she said, trying to lighten the moment. At what? Playing the part, the protective boyfriend. His thumb traced a slow circle at the small of her back, and she felt it everywhere. Who said I was playing? The words hung between them, electric and dangerous. Aaliyah's breath caught. Sungo. You're tense, he murmured, his lips close to her ear. Relax. Everyone's watching. We need to make this convincing. Convincing. Right. This was pretend. An act. But the way his hand tightened on her waist, the way his eyes burned into hers, didn't feel like acting. The song ended, but neither of them moved. I need some air, Aaliyah said, suddenly too warm. He nodded, but his hand stayed on her back as they walked toward the balcony. The night air was cool, a relief against her flushed skin. She leaned against the railing, trying to steady her breathing, when she heard footsteps behind them. Jordan stood in the doorway, alone this time. His expression was ugly with anger. I don't know who you think you are, he said, pointing at Sungo, but I know Aaliyah. She's desperate, probably paying you to. Sungo moved so fast Aaliyah barely saw it. One moment he was beside her. The next he was inches from Jordan, his voice dropping to something that made her blood run cold. Touch her again. Speak to her again. Even think about her again. He paused, letting the words sink in. And you'll regret ever learning her name. Jordan stumbled backward, his face pale. He didn't say another word before disappearing inside. Aaliyah stared at Sungo. What exactly do you do? He turned to her, his expression softening slightly. What I need to. The drive home was quiet, charged with something unspoken. Sol's lights blurred past the windows of his car, some luxury brand she didn't recognize. You really play the part well, she said, trying for lightness. Sungo glanced at her, his jaw tight. I told you before. I'm not playing. Her heart hammered. What does that mean? He pulled up to her building, but didn't unlock the doors. Instead, he turned to face her fully, his eyes searching hers. It means if anyone bothers you again, you call me. Not because it's pretend. Because I won't let anyone hurt you. The intensity in his voice made her shiver. She nodded, not trusting her words, and climbed out. 3 days later, Aaliyah saw the black Mercedes again, parked across from her apartment, engine off, windows tinted, just sitting there in the morning light like a shadow that refused to leave. Watching. Waiting. Subscribe to K-Pop Tale Studios and comment. I see you if you can sense danger when it's watching. Because someone is definitely watching Aaliyah, and she's about to find out why. The black Mercedes was still there when Aaliyah left for work the next morning. She told herself it was coincidence. Seoul had thousands of black luxury cars, but when she glanced back from the subway entrance, she could swear someone was sitting in the driver's seat, watching. By the time she reached her office building, she'd almost convinced herself she was being paranoid. Then she saw Jordan in the lobby. He was pacing near the elevators, his hand in a cast, his face tight with anger. The moment he spotted her, he started walking toward her with purpose. We need to talk, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Aaliyah's pulse spiked. I have nothing to say to you. Your psycho boyfriend broke my hand. Jordan's good hand shot out, grabbing her wrist hard enough to make her gasp. Do you know what that cost me? I had to cancel 3 client meetings. Michelle's father is asking questions. Let go. You're going to fix this. You're going to tell whoever that man is to back off, or I'm pressing charges. I'm going to touch her again, a voice said from behind them, calm as death, and you'll regret ever learning her name. Jordan's grip released instantly. Aaliyah spun around to find Sungo standing there, dressed in a black suit, his expression unreadable, but his eyes absolutely lethal. How did you? Jordan started, but the words died in his throat when Sungo took a single step forward. Leave. The word was soft, final. Jordan stumbled backward, his face pale, and practically ran out of the building. Aaliyah's heart hammered as she watched him go. Then she turned on Sungo, fury replacing fear. How did you know I was here? How did you know he was here? Because I'm watching. His tone was matter-of-fact, like it was the most normal thing in the world. That's not an answer. She crossed her arms, ignoring the curious stares from people in the lobby. Are you following me? Protecting you. That's not protection, that's control. Something flickered in his eyes. Sometimes they looked the same. The casual admission made her blood run cold. She studied him properly for the first time since he'd appeared. The perfect suit, the tattoo behind his ear that she'd noticed before, but never really looked at. Now, in the bright lobby lights, she could see it clearly. A symbol. Stylized. Familiar. Her breath caught. She'd seen that mark before. In a news article about organized crime in Seoul. The Hanrim Syndicate. That tattoo, she said slowly. I know what it means. Sungo's expression didn't change. Do you? You're in the Mafia. No. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to something intimate and terrifying. I am the Mafia. The lobby seemed to tilt. Aaliyah backed away, her mind racing. The deference people showed him, the fear in Jordan's eyes, the way he moved through the world, like he owned it. I need to go, she said, her voice shaking. Aaliyah. Don't. She held up a hand. Just don't. She walked away before he could stop her, but she felt his eyes on her back the entire way to the elevator. Over the next 3 days, Aaliyah noticed things she'd been too distracted to see before. The man in the dark suit who sat 3 tables away at her favorite cafe. The black sedan that was always parked on her street. Different drivers, but the same watchful eyes. Phone calls that rang once and went silent the moment she answered. She wasn't being protected. She was being monitored. On the 4th day, she'd had enough. She found out through a quick internet search that Sungo owned half the clubs in Gangnam. The Eclipse was his crown jewel. Exclusive, expensive, impossible to get into without connections. Aaliyah walked straight up to the entrance. 2 massive security guards blocked her path. Members only. I'm here to see Sungo. The guards exchanged glances. One spoke into his earpiece, then moved to physically stop her when she tried to walk past. Let her through. The voice came from a speaker somewhere. Sungo's voice. The guards stepped aside immediately. The club was darker inside, pulsing with music and low red lighting. People danced, drank, disappeared into shadowy corners. But everyone moved aside as Aaliyah walked toward the back, like they knew exactly who she was. Sungo sat in a private booth overlooking the main floor, flanked by 2 men in suits who looked like they could break bones without breaking a sweat. He dismissed them with a slight gesture when he saw her. Aaliyah. He stood buttoning his jacket. This is a surprise. You have to stop. She didn't bother with pleasantries. The cars. The men following me. The phone calls. All of it. No. The simple refusal made her angrier. You don't own me. You're in danger because of me. His voice was quiet, but absolute. You think I'll just let you walk around Seoul like a target? I didn't ask for your protection. No. He stepped closer, his eyes burning into hers. You asked for a boyfriend. I gave you one. Everything that came after is a consequence of that choice. This isn't what I wanted. What did you want, Aaliyah? He was so close now, she could feel the heat radiating off him. To humiliate your ex? To feel powerful for one night? You got that, but you also got me. And I don't walk away from what's mine. I'm not yours. You kept my card. His voice dropped, intimate and dangerous. You called me. Twice. You let me touch you. Dance with you. Play your boyfriend in front of everyone who matters in your life. You made yourself mine the moment you said yes. The air between them crackled. Aaliyah's heart raced, but she couldn't tell if it was from fear or something far more dangerous. You're taking over my life, she whispered. I'm keeping you alive. His hand came up, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the intention. There's a difference. She should have stepped back, should have walked away, but she didn't. Neither did he. The space between them burned, neither willing to close the distance, but both unable to move away. Finally, Aaliyah broke the moment, turning toward the exit. This isn't over, she said. No, Sungo agreed quietly. It's not. She didn't see him follow her out, but she knew he was watching. Always watching. When Aaliyah got home that night, her apartment door was unlocked. Her blood went cold. She pushed it open slowly, reaching for her phone. Nothing was broken. Nothing was stolen. But when she walked into her bathroom, her breath stopped. Written across her mirror in red lipstick, the letters dripping like blood. Stay away from Lim Sungo. Subscribe to K-Pop Tale Studios and comment she's not alone. If you believe women deserve protection, not threats. Only cowards send messages in the dark. Aaliyah's hands shook as she stared at the mirror. The red lipstick message still dripping like a threat. She didn't think. She just pulled out her phone and called the only number that mattered. Sungo answered before the first ring finished. Aaliyah. Someone was in my apartment. Her voice cracked. There's a message. On my mirror. They know your name. Lock the door. Don't touch anything. I'm coming. Sungo. 5 minutes. The line went dead. He arrived in 3. Aaliyah heard his voice in the hallway before she saw him, speaking rapid Korean to someone. Then her door opened and he was there, his expression colder than she'd ever seen it. Show me. She led him to the bathroom. His jaw tightened when he saw the message, but his voice remained deadly calm when he spoke into his phone in Korean. Within seconds, 4 men in black suits appeared, moving through her apartment with surgical precision. Sungo turned to her, and for a moment, she saw something underneath the ice. Fury, raw and barely contained. Pack a bag, he said. 1 bag. Clothes, documents, anything irreplaceable. You have 10 minutes. What? No, I'm not. Aaliyah. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. They were inside your home. They know where you sleep. You're not staying here. So what? I'm supposed to just run away. You're supposed to stay alive. His hand cupped her face, gentle despite the steel in his voice. Pack. Now. The authority in his tone left no room for argument. 10 minutes later, she stood in her living room with a duffel bag, watching strange men dust for prints and check her windows. This didn't feel real. Let's go, Sungo said, his hand at her lower back. Where? Somewhere safe. The drive through Seoul's night streets felt surreal. Aaliyah watched the city blur past, her mind racing. When they pulled up to a building in Gangnam that looked like it cost more than her entire apartment complex, she finally found her voice. Are you kidnapping me? Sungo looked at her, and his expression softened just slightly. No, I'm keeping you alive. The penthouse took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Han River, the city lights reflecting off the water like scattered diamonds. Everything was glass, steel, and shadows, beautiful and cold and imposing. Guest room is down the hall, Sungo said, setting her bag down. Bathroom stocked. If you need anything, my room is at the other end. How long am I staying here? Until it's safe. And when will that be? His silence was answer enough. Aaliyah watched him make calls in rapid Korean, his voice sharp and commanding. She caught certain words. Names, locations, orders. This was his world. Power and danger and control. She should have been terrified. Part of her was. But another part, a part she didn't want to acknowledge, felt safer than she had in days. Hours later, Aaliyah gave up trying to sleep. The guest room was luxurious but foreign, and every time she closed her eyes, she saw that lipstick message. She wandered out to the living room and found the balcony door open. Sungo stood outside, leaning against the railing with a cigarette between his fingers. Soul sprawled beneath them, alive and glittering and oblivious. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked without turning around. No. She joined him at the railing, keeping a careful distance between them. "Do you ever?" "Not often." He took a drag, exhaling smoke into the night air. "Sleep requires trust. Trust is a luxury in my world." "What world is that exactly?" He was quiet for a long moment. "One where I learned young that showing weakness gets you killed. Where loyalty is currency and betrayal is constant." He turned to look at her. "I was 14 when my father was murdered by his own brother. I was 16 when I killed that uncle to take back what was mine." Aaliyah's breath caught. "Sungo." "You should be afraid of me," he said softly. "Everyone else is." "I am afraid of you." She surprised herself with the honesty. "But not because of what you've done. Because of what you make me feel." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise. Maybe hope. "Why me?" The question came out quieter than she intended. "You could have anyone. Why pretend to be my boyfriend at all?" Sungo turned fully toward her, and in the city lights, she could see every line of his face, every shadow in his eyes. "Because when I saw you at that hotel defending my employee 6 months ago, you looked at me and didn't see a monster. You saw a man." He stepped closer. "And when I saw you at that engagement party, humiliated and breaking, something in me couldn't walk away. For the first time in my life, pretending felt real." The air between them crackled with everything unspoken. "You're the first person," he continued, his voice barely above a whisper, "who looked at me like I wasn't something to fear, like maybe I could be something other than what I was raised to be." Aaliyah's heart hammered. She should step back, should maintain distance, should protect herself from whatever this was. Instead, she moved closer. "Sungo." He kissed her before she could finish. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, claiming, full of everything they'd been holding back. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her head back, and she felt the kiss everywhere, in her chest, her stomach, her fingertips. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Soul hummed below them, oblivious to the world shifting between two people on a balcony. "This is dangerous," Aaliyah whispered against his lips. "Everything about me is dangerous." His thumb traced her jaw. "But I won't let anything hurt you. Not even myself." She believed him. God help her, she believed him. The moment shattered when Sungo's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, his expression darkening as he read the message. "What is it?" Aaliyah asked, fear creeping back in. He was silent for a moment, his jaw tight. When he looked at her, something had changed. The softness was gone, replaced by the cold calculation she'd seen in the club. "The jade serpents." His voice was flat. "They're the ones who left the message. And they've put a price on your head." The world tilted. "What?" "They know you're connected to me. They think taking you will weaken my position." His hand cupped her face. "They're wrong. It only makes me more dangerous." "How much?" The question came out small. "Enough that every desperate criminal in Seoul will be looking for you." His eyes burned into hers. "But they'll have to go through me first." Subscribe to K-Pop Tale Studios and comment. She deserves protection. If you believe putting innocent people in danger to hurt others is pure evil, only monsters target the innocent. The penthouse transformed overnight into a fortress. Aaliyah woke to the sound of men's voices, speaking in rapid Korean. When she emerged from the guest room, she found Sungo's living room filled with armed guards, laptops displaying security feeds, and intention so thick she could barely breathe. Sungo stood at the center of it all, issuing orders with cold precision. He looked different in the morning light, harder, more dangerous. This wasn't the man who'd kissed her on the balcony. This was the head of the Hanrim syndicate. When he saw her, something softened in his expression, but only for a moment. "Go back inside," he said. Not unkind, but absolute. "No." Aaliyah crossed her arms. "If I'm the reason for all this, I deserve to know what's happening." His jaw tightened, but he dismissed his men with a gesture. They filed out silently, leaving them alone. "The Jade Serpents made their move public," he said. "Every criminal with a death wish now knows there's money on your head. I'm locking down every access point, every vulnerability. You don't leave this penthouse until I eliminate the threat. So I'm a prisoner. You're protected. Those aren't the same thing." Her voice rose despite herself. "You can't protect me from everything, Sungo. Eventually something will. Watch me." The words were steel and promise. "I've built an empire by making impossible things happen. Keeping you safe is not impossible. It's mandatory." The intensity in his eyes should have frightened her. Instead, it made her heart race for entirely different reasons. If you believe love means protecting, not controlling, hit subscribe to K-Pop Tales Studios. Only predators use fear to justify power. The ambush came 3 hours later. Aaliyah was reading in the guest room when she heard shouting, then gunfire, sharp cracks that made her blood run cold. She ran to the living room and found Sungo barking orders into his phone, his expression murderous. "What happened?" she demanded. "They hit one of my cars." His voice was ice, the one that was supposed to transport you to a safe house. "They thought you were inside." Her stomach dropped. "Was anyone?" "My driver's in critical condition. 2 guards are dead." He turned to face her, and the fury in his eyes was terrifying. "They came for you, Aaliyah, and they killed my people trying to get to you." Before she could respond, he was gone, moving toward the door with lethal purpose. "Where are you going?" "To remind them why no one touches what's mine." The door slammed behind him, and Aaliyah was alone with guards who wouldn't meet her eyes. Hours passed like years. She paced the penthouse, her mind racing with horrible possibilities. Every car that passed below made her flinch. Every sound made her heart stop. When the door finally opened near midnight, Sungo walked in alone. Blood stained his sleeve. His knuckles were split, but his expression was calm, the kind of calm that came after a storm had passed and left only destruction in its wake. "You're safe now," he said quietly, the first words out of his mouth. Not "I'm fine," not "it's over," just a confirmation that she was protected. Aaliyah's hands shook as she walked toward him. "What did you do?" "What I had to." His eyes met hers, unflinching. "They won't come for you again." "Because you—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Because I made them understand that touching you means death. Slow death. The kind that serves as a warning to everyone else who might have similar ideas." She should have been horrified, should have seen him as the monster everyone else feared. But all she could think was that this man, this dangerous, ruthless man, had just gone to war for her. "Let me clean that," she said, nodding toward his bloodied sleeve. He let her lead him to the bathroom. They didn't speak as she carefully rolled up his sleeve, revealing bruised knuckles and a shallow cut on his forearm. As she cleaned the blood away with warm water and careful hands, she felt him watching her. "You're not afraid," he observed. "I am," she admitted. "Just not of you." His hand caught hers, stilling her movements. "You should be. You've seen what I'm capable of now. I've seen what you're willing to do to keep me safe." She looked up at him. "That's not the same thing." Something shifted in his expression, vulnerability breaking through the armor. Morning came quietly. Aaliyah found herself on the balcony again, watching Seoul wake up beneath them. The city looked peaceful from up here, beautiful even, like the violence of the night before had never happened. Sungo joined her, 2 coffee cups in his hands. He offered her one without speaking. They stood in silence for a long moment before he finally said, "You can leave if you want." Her heart stuttered. What? The threat is neutralized. I've made arrangements for you to return to Atlanta if you want. New identity, new life. You'd be safe. He turned to face her fully. But if you stay, I won't pretend anymore. Pretend what? That this is just about protection. That I'm just playing a role. His hand came up, cupping her jaw with surprising gentleness. If you stay, you're choosing this. Choosing me. All of me. The danger, the violence, the world I live in. And I'll choose you. Every day. Every moment. No more pretending. Aaliyah's breath caught. Her heart pounded, so hard, she was certain he could hear it. You were supposed to play my boyfriend for one night, she whispered. He stepped closer, his eyes burning into hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. Then don't make me stop playing. A smile tugged at her lips despite everything. Maybe I don't want you to. The kiss was different this time. Not desperate or claiming, but certain. A choice made freely, with full understanding of the consequences. His hand slid into her hair, angling her face up toward his. Her fingers curled into his shirt, pulling him closer. Soul hung below them. Alive, beautiful, dangerous, but up here, in this moment, there was only them. When they finally broke apart, foreheads touching, breathing each other's air, Aaliyah knew there was no going back. She'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross, fallen for a man she couldn't walk away from. I must be insane, she murmured against his lips. We both are, he agreed, his thumb tracing her jaw in that possessive way that made her heart race. The morning sun caught his face, highlighting the tattoo behind his ear, the mark of the Hanrim Syndicate, the symbol of everything dangerous about him. But when he looked at her like this, all she saw was the man who'd saved her pride, protected her life, and somehow made her feel more seen than anyone ever had. It was supposed to be pretend, one night of playing boyfriend to help her save face. But for Lim Sungo, the moment he'd wrapped his arm around her waist and called her his, it had become the only real thing he'd ever known. And for Aaliyah Brooks, the woman who'd sworn she'd never be anyone's fool again, falling for Seoul's most dangerous man was the most reckless, terrifying, and right thing she'd ever done. Subscribe to K-Pop Tale Studios and comment, real love is worth the risk if you believe choosing love over safety takes courage. Only cowards judge others for following their hearts. Drop a like if you're rooting for Aaliyah and Sungo, because their story is just beginning.